Hi everybody, my name's Chris. I'm just recording my first annual update here, and you will see me working with this horse is named Foxy. She belongs to a friend of mine, and I was just asked to help sort of start her on Art2Ride. So my friend's working with her as well. So I'm teaching my friend Amber and teaching Foxy. So Foxy is a 20, I believe, year old quarter horse mare, and she was predominantly used for Western pleasure, I believe. So she doesn't mind having her head somewhat low, but she doesn't like to stretch. And you'll see it's worse in the trot. So here I'm just lifting my hands to, oh, she was falling in on that corner. So I had to lift my hands. One, I used that as part of my cue to move out, but I just needed to make sure the lunge line wasn't on the ground since she fell in so badly. And you can see when she starts trotting, it's just very tight and stabby with her back legs. So we didn't do very much of it. I think she actually trotted there without me asking her to. So we just came back to the walk, and you'll see the difference in her walk. While it's not big, powerful yet, there's a lot more flow in her walk. So we did mostly walk work. I don't know where the footage went, but I did work in hand with this horse first. So always start with work in hand. It really gives them the idea of stretching and contact and moving off the aids. And there I asked her to move away from me, and she didn't listen, so I had to get a little more forceful since I knew she knew what I was asking. She just likes to test. It's from being a lesson horse for several years. She likes to test and see if you mean it. So she just had a little temper tantrum. But you see we come right back from it, and she has a little more energy after that. So I don't mind a little bit of that here and there. I'd rather have that than let the horse walk on top of me. So we're in a nice controlled environment. She's not going to hurt herself. And she just comes right back to work, and we had a little bit better communication afterward. So as I said, she was a lesson horse for several years. So she just has a few moments of, I don't have to do that. And I can't say I blame her. So she likes to test who's working with her. And here you'll see the woman walking next to me is her owner, Amber. So I'm explaining work in hand to Amber here. And I did not leave the audio in, mostly because you couldn't hear. So I go out of the frame a little bit, so it's a little choppy. So I'm just teaching her how to hold the reins. And Will has a wonderful video on that already, so I didn't want to put that in. So I'm teaching her how to hold the reins, and Amber's just going to go stay out of the way, I think. I'm not sure. And I'm just kind of getting the idea. And you see Foxy is very sluggish. She didn't want to move away from me. She was crowding me, so I asked her to move over, and she just didn't really understand. And the biggest problem we had with her was not getting her to move, but she would go very, very slowly because she apparently used to be shown in halter classes as well. So she wanted me right at her head. So as soon as I was back near her shoulder where I needed to be to effectively give a cue, she would just start slowing down to reposition herself where she wanted me to be. So I had to stay after her for that. And you'll see she's just kind of sticky in that corner. And we're having to figure each other out here. But there she starts to relax a little bit. So she has some hock problems. She had just about a year off of work. She was diagnosed with Lyme disease. She has several physical issues. So Amber came to me and asked me to help because she thought this training would help Foxy get back into work more comfortably. Because she'd been working with her and she just wasn't super happy with where she was. So she asked me for some help, and I've been happy to teach her. So after we did the work in hand, we switched over to lunging. And with all of these things, I didn't include the footage, but the horse worked quite a bit longer, mostly in the walk, than I normally would, because it was a lesson. So this was a day where I did work in hand both directions while talking Amber through it, and then Amber got to do it. So there's some clips missing just because I didn't really want to share Amber in this video. She gave me permission. I just wasn't super comfortable with doing that. But I'm sure you can see she might post something at some point. So here you can see she just, Foxy likes to tense up her neck as soon as she's trotting, so she'll have a nice swinging walk. And it just doesn't quite transition to the trot, and it's not a high enough headset that a shambone would help her, because her pole does stay lower than her withers, so I can't correctly adjust a shambone to help her with that. So we're just working with nothing at the moment. At some point we might put her in side reins, but we're not sure yet. We just wanted to give her some time to adjust, just see what she would give us. And so I worked with her for I think 4 or 5 days, and still talk to Amber frequently, even though I'm not allowed to, not allowed, I am allowed. I am not able to get there at the moment due to my work. But it is fun to look back at these videos and see how much more relaxed she is in the 4th or 5th day I worked with her versus the first day. And she picked it up very, very quickly. And the best comment I received was probably 2 weeks after this video. Amber texted me and said she could see the change in Foxy, and it was great, because she said not only was Foxy moving better, Foxy was actually wanting to work now. And for a while there, she didn't want to work. You had to fight to get everything out of her. So here you see we went back to work in hand. I think this was a different day. So every day we start with work in hand as the warm-up, because if they can't stretch and work in hand, more likely than not, you're not going to be able to get them to stretch on the lunge line. So we start there, and once she starts moving, you can see she's just not really wanting to move forward, because she's saying in her mind, I'm not where I'm supposed to be for her to move, so she's trying to position me where I'm supposed to be, and she doesn't understand yet. There she moved out a little bit. And there she's relaxing a little bit. The other issue we had is she's a little bit gait sour. So the gait is off camera, so you can't see it, but she's always wanting to cut that corner to the left of that big overhead door because she wants to get closer to the gate. And I think she has gotten quite a bit better with that throughout this work. But this was only, I think, the 3rd day, so she kept wanting to fall in, so I would ask her to leg yield over. And it's not the prettiest cue at the moment because she's just learning, so I have to exaggerate a little bit. She knows how to leg yield under saddle, she just doesn't know how to do it in work in hand. So you can see her walk is just a little bit sluggish. She's just not moving quite nicely as she can. And there she's fighting me again. So I asked her to go out even further than I normally would have, because I knew about her issue there. And then she starts relaxing and swinging a little bit more going this way, but it's still just a little bit slow. But as I said, this horse is really just coming back into work after several health issues. So we don't expect her to be moving at her best at this point. And of course, she'll never move like a big warm blood because that's not what she was bred for. She's a quarter horse, and she's quite a nice quarter horse. There she's starting to relax. You can see her stepping under, even though she's not really pushing, she is stepping under. So that's the first step, and I wanted to reward that. And we swap directions. So as Will always says, I like to reward the best I've ever gotten from the horse. So whether that means ending for the day or just swapping directions and saying that's exactly what I wanted, we're going to call it quits on that in some way, shape, or form. She's still just a little sluggish, but she's moving. She moves a little bit better off the aids this direction, maybe because she wasn't shown in hand, in a halter, I mean, this direction, I don't know. But I had a few less issues with her this way. But you can see her back legs are still just not quite swinging as well as they could. She just looks a little lazy, like she's half asleep here. But it'll come in time. And just once again, this is only her third or fourth time ever doing this work, so I think she's doing pretty well, all things considered. But I did want to share this horse. She's not the only horse in this video, but she is about 95% of the video, because I think it's wonderful to see the difference between a quarter horse movement versus the warm blood movement, because we see so many videos with nice warm bloods and thoroughbreds. And we also see horses that are usually a little bit further along in their training. So I thought it'd be fun to show the very beginning of this horse's Art2Ride journey. And Amber was nice enough to let me share that. So Foxy also has a little bit of an issue, not really an issue, but it just goes back to that testing to see if the person really can make her do what they're asking. So sometimes she'll start out on the lunge and you ask her to move out and she'll just turn and try to walk towards you. I don't have too much of an issue with it, but every once in a while she'll do that, or I'll ask her to do a bigger walk and she'll just jog instead. But she has so much training. Whoever trained her did a great job of teaching her voice commands. So all I have to say is walk, and if she's jogging, she'll go right back to the walk. You'll see when she's walking, all I have to say is whoa, and she just halts beautifully. So I just try to make sure I time those to set her up for the best transition possible, because I know she will do it regardless of whether she's set up for it nicely, but I want to help her do it in a way that's best for her movement and best for her body. And here you can see this walk is already so much looser than in the beginning of the video. Her head is a little bit lower and swinging. She has a little bit more activity, and there's just a relaxation that wasn't there before. She still doesn't have a super powerful walk, but she's out of shape. I wouldn't expect it to be super powerful at the moment, but it's much more relaxed and loose. And you see she still tries to fall in on that corner a little bit, so I have to get after her again. There you see she was kind of falling asleep, so I asked her to jog just to get some of that activity. Sorry, I asked her to trot, but she defaults to a jog. So I got just enough out of her. I wanted to see if she would relax in the trot since she was relaxing in the walk. And it's a little looser than before, but it's not something I'd want to do much of. So I think I only did about 2 circles and then asked her to go back to the walk. But that is significantly looser than it was before. So I think I saw that relaxation more than I had in the past, so I wanted to see if I could get her that last little bit of relaxation, but I didn't. So I pushed her a little bit further than I would have normally, just to see if I could get that last bit of release from her, but it wasn't coming. So I went back to the walk, and I think that's exactly what I need to do. Probably could have done it sooner. And I think her walk is a little looser than it was even before that trot, but she definitely needs more activity here, so I'll have to keep that in mind to ask for more, which I did there. And I think that's quite a nice little walk from her there. But once again, a lot of times I'd ask her for a bigger walk and she'd just jog instead, so I have to find that balance with her. There she's falling in, so I lift my hands just to try to maintain some contact like I would under saddle. And that was a very nice walk there, so I'm not sure if I asked her to trot again, give it another shot, because some horses seem to, they might struggle with that first trot, so you can just use it as a warm-up and then go back to the walk, and it will help their walk work. And then if once they're swinging again at the walk, maybe even better than before, you can ask for a trot and you'll get a better trot the second time around. So I asked her for a bigger trot this time, I believe. It's a little bit more, and I think it is a little more active and a little bit looser, but still not quite what I was asking for. And if I remember correctly, I don't remember if it was this day or the following day I worked with her, but I had one big complete release step, and we ended it for the day on that because I wanted to reward that as best I could. I think we got one step each direction with that. So I praised her, let her stop, and then swapped direction and worked a little bit the other direction and got it there. So here it's still not a very pretty trot, so we came back to the walk. But that's a beautiful walk right there. It's about the best walk I could probably expect from this horse at this point in her training. So it's a much more active walk than we had to start with. And she could still stretch a little bit deeper, but I'm pretty happy with this for the moment. There, yeah, I think she just started to jog because I asked her for a slightly bigger walk or asked her to move out, and so she just jogs instead. And there you see that beautiful stop. It's so easy getting this horse to stop most of the time. And as long as you set her up nicely and have her nice and relaxed, she almost always halts square, which is not always a sign that the horse is working over its back because it can be just drilled into them so much, especially I think show horses, particularly halter horses, they're always taught to halt square. So she does that very frequently, but it's easier for the horse if they're working over their back. And here I think this walk is better than we've seen going this direction before as well. A little bit more swing. She could stretch more, but there's still a little bit more activity there than we've had before. And there I asked her for a little trot, I think, And here she's trying to fall in that corner. I'm not really sure why, but she did, so we have to give a little correction. I try to be careful not to let horses get away with too many of the little things, because the little things can definitely add up. But I also try to be careful that my corrections for little cues are smaller, or for little slip-ups are smaller than uh, my corrections for something that's a little more rude, a little more dangerous. Not that falling it isn't a little bit rude, but I try to make sure the punishment fits the crime, because I've had a few issues in the past of, if you really reprimand for even the small things, reprimand at a high level for the small things, sometimes horses will just say, well, I'm going to get punished for it regardless, might as well go big or go home. So this is a different. So this is Dublin. Another one of my friends asked me to do a little bit with him because she just had too many horses, couldn't get them all worked. So she asked me to get him going again and get him stretching. And I worked with him on a few occasions. I did work in hand and lunge with him as well before I hopped on. I was a little hesitant to pick up the reins on him. Probably could have done more, but he does have a habit of curling behind the vertical. Clearly, I wasn't doing too much in this one since he was just ignoring me. But I have to be a little cautious with him since he has a neurological condition, so I have to keep that in mind when I'm working with him. He's also a very big boy at, I believe, 17.1 hands, and he just floats across the ground as soon as I get him stretching. So yes, there are definitely things that from watching this video I can take away and say I need to improve upon. But it was at least a little bit of stretch work for him. So I wanted to throw this clip in to show that I am still riding. And I'm looking forward to doing more of that in the future and continuing to work with Foxy every time I get a chance, and hopefully this guy as well. And always looking forward to learning as much as I can so that I can help others. And it's always a fun journey with horses.